And the hope is this is an idea that can take off across the country in Indian nations. Here's one for you. What's a four-letter word for happy? Not long ago, the county faced a stark truth. I went down into the draw, and just 150 yards from the school, this is what I found. I was pretty sure it was mountain lion scat. I called Decker, and he confirmed it.
Yep, that's mountain lion scat.
It's the smaller trees that can catch a ground fire and then take it up into the upper canopy. All right, I'm taking a leap of faith here. He asked me to take my glove off, but I'm going to do it just to get a taste of this honey.
Honey, don't worry about it.
He's always believed it, and maybe now he knows it. Hemp has a future in the Pine Ridge economy. What started 2 years ago as a dream has become historic reality. Local political leaders were looking for a solution to a difficult problem. Crucial time was lost when emergency airlifts had to be called in from Rapid City.
Critical incidents that happen on our reservation, every minute counts, and everybody in the health profession knows that every minute counts.
When the district leaders met Wade Black, a creative solution was hatched. With Black's help, a partnership was crafted with Texas-based Apollo Medflight to bring emergency air service to Pine Ridge. Oglala Lakota Air Rescue was launched.
We believe we're making history by being the first Native-owned air rescue in the United States.
Critical minutes can now be shaved off response times.
You're losing at least 45 minutes of time to be able to serve, in the event of a major accident or emergency. With the aircraft now being here, we're able really to respond in a matter of minutes.
The service, with pilots, a helicopter, nurses, and EMTs, all based in Pine Ridge, was ushered in with ceremony. It might save lives. It also might make business history.
This is the first tribally owned, people-owned program in the country.
It's a historic day for the people of the Oglala Lakota Nation, and the fact that we are joining this enterprise, a business, not only for self-sustaining, but also for the number one reason, which is to save lives.
And the hope is this is an idea that can take off across the country in Indian nations. In Pine Ridge, this is Stuart Huntington, Dakota Territory News. South Dakota is one of the top honey-producing states in the country. Last year, South Dakota's 255,000 bee colonies produced 14.5 million pounds of the amber gold, topped only by our Dakota neighbor to the north. And this year is looking like it could be a banner year.
Excellent year. Yeah, all this moisture, it's been awesome. I talked to a guy the other day that he's got about 120 hives, and he is expecting to get 10,000 pounds of honey off of them.
Owens founded the Wannabe Hobby Beekeepers Club in Rapid City and has helped more than 600 people get into the trade. I tagged along with him today to check on one of his colonies out in Rapid Valley. I was a little nervous about getting stung, but Owens reassured me, sort of.
Now, the only place that you can get stung now is on the ear.
Oh, because your ear touches the
mesh.
He opened up his hives and explained to me how the process works. He told me the bees make honey from plant nectar, and it is their food. The honey we eat is the excess the hive produces, and that the bees don't need to survive the winter. And then he showed me the honey. Wow, that looks great.
Oh, it is. It's awesome. Can you take your glove off?
No, I don't want to yet.
You won't hurt you.
All right, I'm taking a leap of faith here. He asked me to take my glove off, but I'm going to do it just to get a taste of this honey.
Honey, don't worry about it.
Oh, man. That's perfection. Before we parted, Owens left me with a final message, probably uttered by beekeepers around the world.
God save the queen. That's what we need to do, because there's only one queen in a hive.
In Rapid Valley, this is Stuart Huntington, Dakota Territory News. Heather Dawn Thompson and colleague Kibby Conti have been toiling for 5 years to identify those that died at the school between 1898 and 1933.
We know that several of them were buried in an unmarked cemetery, but there were indications that a few of them were buried here at Mountain View Cemetery.
So they sent a list of names to the Rapid City Cemetery in hopes that the records would match. Several did.
So one of them is Mabel Holy, who's buried over here to the right.
Thompson posted the find on Facebook. Does anyone know who Mabel Holy is? The response was almost instantaneous from Holy's relatives on the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation.
It was, oh my gosh, we've been looking for Mabel for 116 years, and we're going to come see her now. It was amazing.
Amazing may not be a strong enough word for Mabel Holy's tale. As a little girl in 1890, she survived the Wounded Knee Massacre when Chief Bigfoot's band was all but wiped out. Just a few years later, in 1898, she was plucked from her family and put in the first class of the Rapid City Indian Boarding School. She died there in 1901 before the school could get word to her parents. 28 years later, her brother Leon Holy wrote the school for word of his sister. The school responded that no records existed of Mabel Holy. On May 6th this year, Leon Holy's 87-year-old son, Martin Holy, drove down with other family members to finally reunite with Mabel.
I'm glad now that my uncle is able to see where she's at.
But Violet Catches couldn't shake off some mixed emotions.
A lot of the members of the Bigfoot tribe always say that we're forgotten people, you know. And so I imagine that she may have thought that she was forgotten. So I told her, see, you're not forgotten. They found you. Finding her is really a kind of a joy, and at the same time it's very sad. Sad because of the fact that my grandpa was looking for her. My grandma was looking for her. They didn't get to see her.
This is Stuart Huntington, Dakota Territory News. Lee Lastly is 48 years old, but has the energy of a much younger man.
Give me some slack!
8 years ago, he started a streak that on Friday hit a major milestone.
Here we are at the base of Devil's Tower on my 100th consecutive monthly summit.
He had his best friend with him to help him hit his mark.
He's a very inspirational person. The stuff that he's gone through, cancer survivor, just always a good attitude.
Lastly started climbing relatively late in life. He was over 30.
And at that time I was probably 250 pounds, just coming out of, all my thyroid cancer stuff and just trying to get life back.
Devil's Tower climbing legend Frank Sanders took him to the top for the first time.
It was probably one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life, and I got to the top.
And then what happened?
I definitely knew at that point there's more to life. It was a life-changing experience.
And infectious. I too am a once young man, and just being on the same rock with him is an inspiration. Even as, more than 8 years ago, a crazy notion seeped into his head.
Let's see if we could summit the tower for a year. Done it. And it kind of turned into forever.
Albeit sometimes scary, like the day he was struck indirectly by lightning 3 times.
The jolt was unexpected and it hurt like hell.
But the Gillette base climber kept coming back.
And every time is special. Every time I get up there, even today, it was cold and just crappy and windy and the sun was gone and it was still special.
So what's next after 100 months of summits?
Well, I'm pretty sure I got 100 more left in me.
On Devil's Tower, this is Stuart Huntington, Dakota Territory News. It was here on Pactola Reservoir just a couple of weeks ago. An early season fisherman noticed something awry. Fish were dying off at an alarming rate. Game officials immediately feared the worst: snouts. A native of the Philippines, the Asian grub snout first showed up in this country in Louisiana in 2012. It probably hitched a ride in the bilge of a freighter. It spread quickly up the Mississippi and along the Ohio rivers. It even showed up in Maine, though experts aren't sure how and think it may be related to a brief outbreak there in the 1950s. Fishermen there are wary.
Father didn't like them and I don't like them. It's handed down generations of generations.
The pesky snout has proven to be highly adaptive and can thrive in a wide range of environments. The problem these fish cause can be great. They are voracious eaters and eat all the food that would normally support the trout, northern pike, walleye, sunfish, and crappie that populate Pactola. Traditional eradication efforts have been ineffective, but state and local officials quickly learned they could be eligible for an experimental program that has shown promise: dolphins.
The most effective predatory species against the snout is the dolphin, freshwater dolphin. We've seen great success in introducing freshwater dolphins into an affected waterway, and we've seen the invasive species either completely reduced to nothing or at least greatly controlled.
If Pactola is approved, officials expect to release 4 male freshwater dolphins into the reservoir in May.
We're including funding for signage around the affected waterway to make sure that visitors to the area are aware that dolphins are now in the area, albeit temporarily.
At Pactola Reservoir, this is Stuart Huntington, Dakota Territory News.